Hey everybody, welcome to Meddkit's Provider Spotlight, where every week we are meeting the most amazing private practices all over the United States. Every week we're coming here with somebody new and most importantly, getting a new perspective. In this day and age, there's a lot of information about, and we are coming here with the best information to give to you. And this week we have a really amazing special guest. And I want to introduce you all to Laurel Thornton, who's the owner of Whole Brain Solutions in West Virginia and North Carolina. Welcome, Laurel.
Thanks, Rachel. It's nice to be here. I'm excited to
Yeah.
talk more. Yeah.
Me too. I know we have a lot to get through, but I am so excited. You have a great background, a great practice, and I'd love to start off if you could even just tell us your story. I mean, I love hearing everyone's backgrounds, what kind of maybe even prompted you or your why behind opening up Whole Brain Solutions.
Yes. So I feel like there's sort of two levels of that story. One is how do we as practitioners land in the therapist role? And then there's also how do you decide to open a private practice? And I'd say for me, there's overlap in that. I have a background in team sport, soccer in particular. And so I come from this background where being around other people um, was important to me, right? That I believe we're our best when we're supported and also when we have people that complement our approaches or think similarly but slightly different. Right? I was a defender. My best friend was an attacker. I'm like, why aren't you defending? And she's like, because when I'm up top, I'm available when you win the ball, right? It's like, and
Yep.
that mentality I love that, right? And so when I was exiting school, in particular, the models that seemed available, which was join like community mental health agencies, and that just like the workload, the way I was seeing people being treated, and like, especially if you wanted to do individual work. I think if you want to do group stuff and like substance use treatment and things like that, the model it feels differently. But if you want to do individual therapy, in particular trauma therapy, which at the time is what I really was committed to doing, EMDR, um, private practice in a lot of ways seemed lonely. I My first job was in a private practice. I remember some days I was there by myself and I just wanted someone to talk to. I wanted to celebrate the really amazing sessions I had and then also just check my thinking on days where it wasn't maybe like I was in my head, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, we've all been there in our jobs.
Yep.
So I wanted to come up with a model that was a hybrid where people had the autonomy and demands that were typical of what I saw in private practice, and also the community and the expectation that we're part of a team, we're going to staff cases together, we're going to come together and work together. And so that was my dream with what I did with Whole Brain Solutions. And I mean, my path meandered for sure, like, but that was the inspiration of how do I bring that background of similar but different is a strength into the private practice mental health care world where people are part of their expected role to work here and be part of my team is that you help other people and that you complement the gifts of your coworkers. So
I love that. I love how you adopted, your life in athletics to also your life as a private practice owner. There are times that things can be isolating, but when you can work as a group and do things as a group, you're benefiting each other, and then your outcome in the end, your patients, your clients, and that's the goal, right? So when you play as a team, you win as a team, right?
right. And I think that you're also speaking to something of we say the goal is client outcomes and it is, and we want to take care of our clients, but the product in mental health care is the therapist.
Yeah.
And I think that, and it's not just therapists, I think right now people are somewhat forgetting about that is like the wellness of the person delivering the care is actually the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because anything else that doesn't prioritize and really care about that is unsustainable. And I think there are many ways in which practices and hospital systems can do that. But if you're not paying attention to that, then the risk of burnout, the risk of
Yes.
mental health issues in our providers is much, much greater.
I couldn't agree more. And, it is really hard. There we're fighting unsustainable costs, burnout. There's so much in private practice land that is not often understood. And yes, you need to take care of the delivery mechanism that is giving you the care that you need, equally as important. And I think that can often be forgot about as the person themselves as they're trying to give so much, and then on the other side of it too, and then that we're all human. But that was an amazing point that you brought up, and maybe you had mentioned this a little bit earlier, about EMDR, and I would love to hear about how much it has shaped outcomes versus talk therapy. But I'd love if you could also share, from you and in your practice, maybe you can talk about the common things that you're, helping people with. But I also find that there's uncommon things too that you also help address that people wouldn't necessarily know or realize that they can seek out help for.
Oh, what a fun
I
question.
know, loaded.
Yeah. So to start very basic for anyone who is not aware, EMDR is an evidence-based comprehensive approach to therapy. And when I say comprehensive, that means like that's all I do. That's my theoretical orientation. The adaptive information processing model is the theory behind EMDR. They probably could have hired a better marketer to like get their terms lined up early, but we didn't. And so there's some confusion, but like EMDR is all I do. So if someone says I'm a CBT therapist, it's kind of the same thing, right? I do EMDR with everyone, whether that's complex PTSD, which it's known for. It's best practices in all like the VA and the World Health Organization for treating post-traumatic stress disorder. But it's a comprehensive approach, meaning if you came in with an adjustment disorder, you go to college and the transition is hard, EMDR is a way to approach and work with that. And so I am an advocate of if you're thinking of going to therapy, EMDR can be an option of a way to approach working through it. So our practice, we do a lot of trauma work because that's what people know of for EMDR, but we also do a lot of work with neurodivergence and sport performance, test anxiety, just like feeling like I don't fit in. I say EMDR is really good with when what's up here isn't matching what's in here. Um,
Yeah.
because it's a way to sort of separate from something, look at it from a different direction, and then move it along toward a place where it feels more true, feels like it fits you now.
Mhm.
Um, so, I'm obviously biased because I love EMDR. I have a practice that specializes in it. I help teach it. Like I help clinicians become certified in it. But that's sort of what I would love people to know about EMDR is shame is maladaptive, right? I don't know a way that shame shows up in someone and is helpful. Guilt, maybe, but shame, no. And EMDR is good, a good way to help separate and heal patterns of shame. And so when we're working with diagnoses that are maybe outside of the PTSD, just
Yeah.
slight umbrella, that's really what we're doing is helping people love the way their brain does something and not have to carry along, yeah, you are very hyperactive in elementary school.
Yeah.
That doesn't make you bad. That makes you someone who's very hyperactive.
Yeah.
And that can be really freeing because I mean, I was talking to a friend and he is an arborist. He climbs trees and trims them for a living, right?
Yeah.
He's exceptional. He gets flown around to train other arborists, right? And I was like, we had the lovely chance to talk, and I'm like, I'm gonna guess you didn't do super well in school, meaning got in trouble. And he was like, oh my God, all the time, right? Could not sit still. And I'm thinking, yeah, that checks, right? Like
Hmm.
this man seeks intense situations and he is very calm in them, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that's just an example. This man is very smart. He's an expert at his craft, and he did not do super well in traditional school. And by well, I mean like the teacher did not say, "Oh, you're so well behaved," right?
Yeah.
And
Gold
so
star for you. Yeah.
exactly. And so I think EMDR, that's just one of the things that I want people to know about it. If you have that sort of curiosity or the lingering stuff that sort of you've done therapy, but you're like, why do I have to cope with this feeling so often? Um, there's probably because there's like a shadow of shame connected to it. And so it gets activated in situations and it's old and it doesn't fit you anymore. And I think EMDR does a great job with things like that, that are more stored in the body or have like it's almost like it's logical, but it's not. And so EMDR can kind of help shake up that script and like, yeah, you got this technically correct, but we missed this little piece.
Yeah, I love the way that you explain how EMDR works because I think for folks who are not on the clinical side, it is like a feeling. You explained multiple scenarios in which so many people in this world feel, right? Old hurts, old patterns, those feelings of shame, and they might not think of the word shame, but you're like, oh, okay, yeah, like this checks out, this makes sense, and there's a path forward to that, and that's why I always like to ask the question of like, what are some things that are maybe uncommon that you help with? And it's maybe not that it's uncommon. It's just that people don't think about, oh, I can go get help for this. Like how you said, test or like performance anxiety. Like there's so many people that struggle out there and they don't think that there's anything that anyone can do for them, you know? Like I don't,
Right.
it doesn't count. Like this worry of mine does not count as a thing I need to get help for.
Oh my gosh, yes. I think that's so common. Like what happened to me wasn't that bad, right? And I'm like, if you have regular feelings of ick, then EMDR can help with that. And it doesn't have to be that bad, right? Like I would love for you to move through the world where you don't have ick when you have to public speak or when anyone says, okay, pop quiz. And you're like, I'm an adult now. I didn't think I had to do that anymore, right? Like you're like, I was kidding. Like this is just a, you know, lunch order.
Yeah, no, it's completely valid, and so I love the way that you have explained things, but also, would love to hear about, the way that you typically approach, a client that comes into the office. Like you have a very interesting background. I would love to see, and I would love to hear about how that background has shaped how you see and serve people.
Yeah, so I'm pretty famously say that I never want to be a therapist. And that is like such a comment of me, right? But I grew up as a very competitive athlete, and really processed almost everything through being able to be angry and
Mhm.
hit hard and do things on a soccer field. And um, this kind of set up like this fundamental piece in me where I didn't understand what mental health was trying to sell me, which was like you being angry is a problem.
Mm.
Because I was like, well, not when I'm playing. You love it there, right? And so this idea that I needed to control my emotions like really bugged me. Because I understood what they were saying to me when I was in therapy. And I was like, yeah, I get it. It's not my fault or whatever it was. But in the moment, when something would happen and I would feel mad and I wasn't on a soccer field because there I handled it really well. I would run through people and get the ball and like be bleeding and not notice, right? But in my other life as a student, as a daughter, as a sister, it was like instantaneous, and I had could not remember whatever the therapist told me in their office last week. And so that didn't sit well with me, right? It's like just as a person, I'm like, I don't get like there's something wrong with this model that you're telling me that I can think through this because in the moment I cannot think.
Hmm.
And um I kept playing soccer. I didn't quit. I had a bad injury. It shook my confidence, but I didn't quit. I had some very good coaches, and I went to college and learned about the neurobiology of trauma and saw how the thinking part of the brain really like is offline. It's detached in the moment of intense anger, of intense fear, of intense love, even like infatuation. And I was like, that makes so much sense. And like obviously I'm 18. So like you're like that angry, like snarky
Yeah.
teenager part of you, which I carry with me still, but I'm like, see, I knew I was right, right? Like you're just
Yeah.
so validated. Um, but I was like, why didn't anyone tell this to me? That it makes so much sense that when I'm really angry and hurting, I can't think.
Yeah.
And that took away so much of my shame, right? And I think that's where I was like, I never had a therapist be able to speak and do that in that way for me. And so that became very important to me. Like we need to treat trauma better. We need to treat intensity better than what I got. Um, and I ended up wanting to go in. I got into graduate school for sport and exercise psychology, and I really wanted to help people with the experience of injury based on what had happened to me. And just, I think that's a brutal transition when your exit of sport is from injury.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good fit, but I did pick up a lot more about how our field is very cognitive based. It's very much like looking at how you're thinking, and if we change how we think. And that wasn't that. I'm like, yeah, but what about when that doesn't work? And I was fortunate that my first counseling class was developmental theories, and the instructor was EMDR trained. And he told me how EMDR works with the brain and what happens when it's being stressed or when it's really angry. And I just had this like light bulb moment of, oh my gosh, okay, there are modalities that sort of honor this when you're really intensely emotional. Finding words is hard,
Yes.
or accessing what you knew when you were calm is really hard, and it works with that. And so that really was the beginning of my interest in EMDR. And like I felt validated that there were other people that were kind of thinking and talking about this, because I had lived almost exclusively in the research world prior to that. And so they were like, well, yeah, we know that. Like, I don't know why therapists aren't doing that or why therapists do it. Like, they were just like, that's not really our job. We just publish and then trust that people read it and keep doing it.
Mm.
Um, so I think I got off from maybe your question a little bit, but it's my approach to this and like what I wholeheartedly believe, and how I designed whole brain solutions, which that was the name, was like your whole brain is what's accessible to you
Yes.
when you feel safe enough, when you're regulated enough, when you can sense your emotions and your body sensations, and then that's the goal. Um, and so when you talk about developing a practice in that mindset, like it starts when they pull in the parking lot. It starts from the first phone call. Like we're cultivating a sense of safety and inclusion and belonging way before even the waiting room, way before they first sit down in your office or come on the screen. That what I learned and what I know, and I think what most people have felt, is like your brain and your body are looking for cues whether something is okay or not okay
Yes.
from the website, from like the pictures matter, the fonts matter.
Yeah.
And I sometimes wish they didn't as much, right? Because
Yeah.
it can feel like a lot of pressure for us. But I've just, I treat it like a mindfulness practice. I sit in different spaces in my office randomly and just see how it feels. I switch up where I sit in my office. When I do supervision, I'll sometimes do it in their office, and I'll sit where the client sits to just feel what different spaces feel like. Because I think really when it comes down to it, this work isn't about what you know, it's about how it feels to work with you.
Yes. You're the first person to ever say that. Like I've been doing this for a really long time and sometimes the simplest things are they're also the truest things and things that also need to be done. And I love the way that you break things down and normalize so much. From also, this is great for people that are in the clinical setting as well to take note of, but also for people that are on the other side of things too, and to have someone really take in their aspect, literally sit where they're sitting and see how it feels to be there. And I think that's just as important because if someone's uncomfortable, you know you're not. This is the session ended before it started, you know?
Or you're just going to have to work so much harder,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah. And
yeah.
so I really love your approach and all of this. I think it's very, very unique, and not talked widely enough about. So I love this, and I think you'll probably enjoy this next question because it's probably one of my favorites to talk about. But in terms of there is so much out there, and you can read like how you're talking about the researchers. I hope that people read what we write, and those are probably the really good things to read. But there's not great things to read online. You know what they are, and they're unreliable, and some of it can be okay, but you can't trust it all. So people internalize it, and I'm sure they ask you tons of questions of like, hey, I heard someone told me X, Y, and Z, or I was chatting to ChatGPT about my mental health, and this is what ChatGPT said to me. What are some of the misconceptions that you are plagued with, Laurel? I'd love to know.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Well, a couple things
Yeah,
come immediately to mind. One is if there was one right answer, I would not have a job.
yeah,
Like if there was one right way to be healthy, one right way to do therapy, like we would have cloned that. Like that's just not true. Okay.
yeah,
So anytime that you feel like you're being told there is only one right way to be well,
yeah,
I would say you can pretty much discount it.
yeah,
We don't understand so much about the brain. There are so many individualized differences. So I think I'm big about guidelines, not rules,
mm,
right? I think there are some general guidelines that we all agree on. Drinking water, generally very good for your health, right?
yeah,
Are there some exceptions, like people like I've heard of clients that are allergic to water, so they can't have it. Like, sure, yes, but those are very rare, and um, that's obviously a very reasonable exception for something, right? And so
sure.
I like guidelines. And then the other thing is that we're in a culture that is very prescriptive.
Yes,
And so, it's like 10 ways to get good sleep, 10 ways to lose 10 pounds, 10 winter blues hacks, right? Like, and um, the vast majority of people I meet are smart and they understand the internet, meaning they can do a Google search. And so they've read those 10 lists, they've read every version of the 10 list,
yeah,
they've tried the things. And so I think a much better question that I would love for people to start asking is like, what are the barriers in your life, in your body, in your whatever that prevent you from being the perfect sleep like because it's not that you don't know the right answer. It
yeah,
used to be. And I think that's why we loved the list, right? It used to be that people went to professionals to learn the information
yeah,
because they genuinely didn't know.
yeah,
But now we do know it. We know way
yeah,
too much,
yeah.
right? It's like,
Yeah.
well, I was going to take this, but then I also read that in rare situations, if I do that, then it can provide swelling. And then, like, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like we have a too much information problem now.
Yeah, we do. We just
And
yeah.
so, right. And so I think that's like where it becomes a practice of, I like the sleep one. It's very buzzworthy right now. And
Yeah.
I have two kids and I used to have a dog. And I was reading this. She passed away last December. Yeah, I know. I did not mean to make this sad. I love her. She died in her sleep. It was like right.
Yeah.
But I was like feeling really tired and I don't know, like it was like a BuzzFeed list, right? Like sleep expert weighs in. And I'm like, yes, I love reading about sleep. And it was like, um, all of these things. And I'm reading this list and I'm like, 100% this person does not have kids and does not have a dog, right? It was like, lock your dog out of your room because they're loud. My dog could open doors. And so I just share that because I had this
Not
one.
apply, does not apply, does not apply.
But I share that because one, even experts read those lists in
Yeah.
hope for like the new thing that's going to unlock my great night's sleep. But in that, I had this wonderful laugh and was like, you know what? This is my 13, 14-year-old dog. I love her so much, and she's not going to be here for that much longer. And I love that she comes and wants to snore next to my bed. And so I just share that with you because like nobody knows what's happening in your life and no one knows exactly the situations you have. And so you get autonomy and choice in all of these wellness lists. And if you decide that me being a little tired to, because she's still like a puppy would go like in her sleep.
Mhm.
And it changed my whole mindset about not sleeping well the last months of her life. And instead, I just like I cherish that time we had with her. And there's room for things like that in all of this. Like, how do you trust yourself more that you might actually know some of what's best for you? And so be inspired by the list, take hints from the list, but only you really knows what's most practical to implement and sustain in your life. And the I say something like the thing that's going to mess up your plan is your life, right? It's like it's so easy to plan on Sunday night what my week's going to look like, and everyone's in the place. I'm eating this lunch, and then it only takes like one thing to happen, and I've forgotten my lunch. I'm calling a babysitter, frantically trying to get coverage, and we all make it. We all made it through the week,
You did.
but my plan did not. Right. And honestly, that's an okay week, right? If what doesn't make it through your week is your plan, it's okay.
I love it. This is like the most down to earth conversation ever. And I think just so truthful because there's just so much here that is everyday life that is again like going back to basics. And I like how you answered the question with the question, if what are the things that are preventing you maybe from getting this sleep, not like how do I get the right sleep, but what are the things like, and let's now dive into that. And without being too prescriptive, because you've already thrown so many good pro tips out here. I need to know more. We want to know more. Um, but maybe there is some, advice or pro tips that you have to give Laurel that might be, you know, if someone is seeking out, their journey in counseling, like what things should they consider, or pro tips even for providers that are like you gave them a lot to think about on this, just grinding down back to basics. But I think, pro tips for all, for people, for your everyday folks, your clinical folks. I think there's so much to be learned and to be gained by everything that you listen to. So without, being prescriptive, but I love what you've had to say so far, and this has been so valuable for everyone here.
Yeah, I think, I feel drawn to say the medical model of mental health
Hmm.
has the sort of setup that you are the problem, that you feeling depressed or you feeling anxious, like, but that really neglects your neurobiology. We are social organisms. Our brains are made to connect. And so sometimes,
Hmm.
and I would say in 2025 in particular, how you're feeling is a very normal reaction to the state of our world, the state of our country being very unstable, being chaotic, being straight up traumatic for many groups of people. And so just to remember that maybe what you're feeling actually makes total sense and that that is not wrong with you. You are feeling bad because there are many things to feel bad about. Now, therapy is a great help for that still. So is laughing, so is dancing, so is connecting with people that love you or maybe don't know you but are like-minded to you and all are here at Wicked because, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for part two coming out, right? Um, so I think, yes, that's a real thing. I am excited. So, yes, we bought our tickets. Um, right. But that things to look forward to matter. Connection with people that are like-minded to you can matter. But in sort of the spirit of being anti-prescriptive, trauma happens. PTSD is what happens when you have a very normal reaction to an abnormal circumstance, right? It's developing post-traumatic stress disorder isn't a comment on you. It is a comment of experiencing something that overwhelmed your brain's natural capacity to process what is happening. And I say that because the other thing people forget about a PTSD diagnosis is it doesn't have to happen to you. You can witness it. It is a life-threatening situation that happens to you or you witness.
Yeah.
And so when you look at it through that lens, I think having stress symptoms, having trauma symptoms makes a whole lot more sense. And it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It means your brain is struggling to process it. So go find ways to help process it. Now, I'm biased. That a lot of times means moving your body, like moving through it.
Yeah.
EMDR, we use bilateral stimulation, but that's to help move it.
Yeah.
And so um, I've said it, I'm a big fan of dancing, like by yourself with other people, but like dancing is bilateral. It moves you through things. I love to run, right? I like to work out. I also like to draw. Like there's so many ways. So if you're feeling that like mobilization energy, I would say go with that, use it, do something with it. Because when we ignore it, it's like a hungry toddler, right? Hello, mom, mom, mom. The hungry toddler, when you ignore it, you should be very worried when it gets quiet because it's climbing your pantry, getting the marshmallows off the top shelf.
Yep.
And if we just say, okay, Rachel, I see you, you're hungry. I'm finishing this one thing and then we can go get a granola bar. It usually goes, okay.
Yep. Just wants to be acknowledged. Move on.
Acknowledged and then eventually given a snack, right?
Yeah.
And so, in closing, I think it's like none of us are that far from our like hungry toddler part. So be kind to it. Don't ignore it. And also, guidelines and boundaries are for everyone's safety. So, yeah.
I love it. These are great pro tips for everybody. And I think also just to acknowledge that, so much of our world today is geared towards like what is wrong with you, and it is like that. And so it's amazing that no one has really pointed that out. It's all about what we do from here, but there's all these circumstances that are also being thrown at us at a vast speed. So yeah, it's a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's normal to assume when we're in a medical, like that we are considered medical help, which I do believe we
Mhm.
are, that we would
Yeah.
be the same. Like, if there's like a kidney stone, like that's a problem, right? And like that is the problem. And I need to get like,
Yeah.
but anxiety, depression, like all like these things are different. It's not a kidney stone.
Yeah.
Um, And so just reminding ourselves, like, there is probably a very like logical reason and explanation for why you're experiencing the symptom you are. And so um if we can get to work on that or the
Yeah.
relationship you have with the cause versus blaming the symptom, there's
Yeah.
actually a lot more hope. There's a lot more room to do work uh versus just listing the things that are wrong and then calling them the problem.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. Laurel, this has been incredible. We so appreciated having you on today. And for just one last thing I'd love to ask you is, if you could just tell everyone where they could find more resources, where they can find you, reach out if they have questions or just want to do their own digging and research on their own. That would be fantastic. All the shout outs. We want all the shout outs.
Sure. So our practice website is wholebrainhealing.com. I also, my team offers consultation and trainings for practitioners who are looking to like be supported in this direction more. And that is the Whole Brain Institute. So it's wholebrain.institute. And then I'm also part of a training collective called the Iris Training Collective. And if you like the way that I'm talking about and looking at systems in particular, please come check that out. And Iris Training Collective is on Instagram as well. So, one, I would just say if you're looking for support, and you haven't found the right support that fits you, like keep looking, right? I hope this podcast can be just affirmation that there are many different approaches to healing. And so if you haven't found the right one for you yet, stay curious because there's other approaches and modalities. And I think you can find one. I believe you can find one in a practitioner that fits you. So fit matters. I think fit matters in who you're learning from, fit matters with who you're getting therapy from. So uh, you can also Google me. My name isn't as common. So Laurel Thornton, and you can find me at those various sites. And I hope to keep connecting and facilitate more conversation. I think that when we stay curious and ask those questions, like what's in the way? How could I show up differently? I wonder if I looked at this from my 5 years from now self, how would it feel differently? That helps our higher functioning brain move, right? It pulls in the creative parts of us, the wise parts of us, and not just getting stuck in the mundane, the prediction, the emotions. So if you could take nothing else, I would say when people say stay curious, what they really mean is like keep letting your brain ask questions, play with an idea, try it on in sort of different ways because that is when your brain is best at solving problems for you, right? Not trying to put someone else's prescriptive model on it, like really pulling in all the things you've learned, all your experiences, and the piece that uniquely make you who you are. Only you are going to know the best answer of how all those things come together. And so here's my wish is that you all have an easier time doing that from here on out.
Laurel, that is, mic drop. I don't know if we should go any further. That was phenomenal. And I just think you're incredible and appreciate everything that you have shared with us, not only your story, but from the clinical and non-clinical side of things. I think everyone is really grateful for your time and sharing with us. So we hope to have you on again soon. And thank you so much.
I would love that. This was fun. Thanks, Rachel.
Anytime.